Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. From Patriot shortages to sanctions on Russian energy, Washington is confronting a central question: how to sustain Ukraine while replenishing America's own increasingly stretched weapons inventories. Now, Poland wants to become part of the solution through Patriot production on NATO's eastern flank, while an unexplained early command change at the U.S. Army 5th Corps adds another development to the regional security picture. Joining us now to chat about it is Joshua Burgin, founder of the Alliance for Global Security. Good to have you with us.
Good morning, Sascha Fahrbach. Nice to be with you as well.
So let's talk about crunch time. Looking at various statistics we've heard, I mean, this comes from the CSIS, the study center. 827 Patriot missiles remaining, apparently, well over 1,000 fired during that first month of the war. How critical is it really in terms of actual capacity right now? How much does that impact what America can do and share and sell?
Sascha, there's no doubt that the United States has made strategic errors in terms of its manufacturing, its reliance on supply chains that were unreliable. And so it's obviously made forced Washington to make decisions it didn't want to make simply because the magazine depth was so shallow.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what actually Ukraine and other allies want to help with. I mean, it looked like good news at the beginning some weeks ago after that NATO summit. Trump had said, well, look, this is something that licensing can go ahead. That's since been sort of now backtracked. What we're looking at now, I mean, this comes actually from The Atlantic, and I want to get your sense of this, because right now I was saying that we're looking at the main U.S. defense giants, Lockheed and Raytheon, apparently are resisting licensing because they fear, and this is from that magazine, that they fear that Ukrainians can do this at scale faster and better. So what do you make of that? Is this something that impacted the president's decision?
It may well have, but if Ukraine can do it faster, better, if Germany, Poland can scale production, it's long past time. We have precedent for this. Back in the 90s, Intel was forced to enable AMD to license and produce its technology, so there was no reliance on a single vendor. And it's long past time for the sort of NATO alliance to not be talking about who's supplying or where it's supplying. If the technology exists and we can supply it closer to the theater of action in Europe, it should be manufactured there. There's no question in my mind about that. And the idea that anything within the U.S. system would reduce the ability to provide resources where needed in a way that's good for the alliance, I think is a mistake.
Mm-hmm. And also, you mentioned about other players there, other countries, Germany. I mean, there is this idea already floating around some weeks. We had one of the deputy defense ministers in Washington from Poland some weeks back talking exactly about this sort of triangle, this joint production, having a hub in Poland with Ukraine and the United States, saying that that would be a safe place to produce, to manufacture this. It looked like positive signals, but where are we now with this? All right, so
forgive me, Sascha. Indeed, the U.S. may be slow walking it, but here's a time when the alliance turns into what it does best and use relationships. So lobbying Washington, that's the Congress, not just the White House, but lobbying the Congress, lobbying at every single level. And there's enough countries in Europe, even those that aren't impacted by this directly, can and should begin calling on Washington to release their own self-interest and do what's in the interest of the whole. I genuinely believe there's room for movement here, but if it's left to a cloistered few, then it's probably going to remain slow walk. And I think it's long past time for that to change, as I previously noted.
Yeah, but also in terms of logistics and actually the reality of such a technical hub, do you think that Poland is placed to do that? I mean, do they have the capacity to be that hub, to produce, to service, and to be really that strategic artery for, let's say, if there is kind of some joint production of Patriot missiles?
No question in my mind. Between an educated workforce, a well-managed supply chain, Poland has everything that it needs to be that hub. Again, Germany is a near adjacent neighbor. Ukraine is bringing technical expertise as well. There's no reason at all why this trilateral group of countries in Europe cannot be a manufacturing hub, cannot be Washington or America's best friend in terms of increasing magazine depth. The fact that there's any sort of delays right now is really anathema to me, since Ukraine needs it. and it's long past time. We need it in other places too. So whatever the U.S. is producing needs to be offset by what can be produced in Europe as well.
And also, just I'm reminded of one kind of interesting anecdote as well, and a reality of actually there's only one place outside of the United States where they actually manufacture ready-to-ship, ready-to-use Black Hawk helicopters, and that's actually in southern Poland, in Mielec. So I'm just wondering, in terms of the security argument here, does that hold true? I mean, if we're looking at, they can't scale this out to other countries, does that hold true, or is there something else behind not actually having another hub for Patriot interceptors?
Sascha, I don't believe this. I don't believe there's anything about Poland that lacks the capacity both to maintain the secrecy, the effective control on supply chain. I think this is, if anything, it's just about exclusivity of a select number of defense contractors in the United States to be covered in a different conversation. But we have contracted for some 90 defense contractors in the U.S. to 3 to 5 majors, and they don't want to let loose of any single dollar. And I think that's a huge mistake.
Yeah. And also, I think in terms of, that's one strategic element. Let me ask you also about leadership. Now, apparently, we're just learning that one of the senior general of the Army's 5th Corps, that's very integral to NATO's eastern flank, very much connected also to Poland, is being essentially called back several months early. I mean, we're talking here about Lieutenant General Charles Costanza. What do you make of that? Is that worrying? Is that normal? I mean, how much of a leadership change? How do you interpret that as?
Sascha, this is a few months early. As I read it, it's about 3 months early. I don't see this as existential. This is clearly not something that's sort of midterm. He's not on a 5-year assignment and yanked out in year 1. It's a few months early. Yes, it's newsworthy for some. I don't see this. I see this as a blip on the radar. The relationship is with the U.S. military more generally, and not a single general. I look forward to seeing who his replacement is.
All right. So, and also we'll be looking at that indeed. But also looking back, I'm going to fire a few more at you. Looking at this new bill that's gone through, this Russian sanctions bill has now cleared the Senate. If we're looking at the numbers, I mean, very comfortable. I think 86 to 11. Some might look at that saying it's bipartisan right now. It then goes to the House. I mean, very much about curtailing Russia's energy possibility. What do you make of that? I mean, is this a surprise? And what happens next when it does go to the House? Will it go through?
So obviously there have been machinations back and forth, delays for some time. This was the signature. This is sort of even the legacy piece of legislation left behind by Lindsey Graham. There was a hot moment about a week and a half ago in which a senator from the state of Georgia had a hold on the bill entirely, but obviously it's passed 86 to 11, as you point out. It does have to go to the House. Again, here's a place where if I'm Europe, I'm going ahead and strategically communicating with as many members of the House as possible to advocate gently and respectfully, but advocate for its passage. And I think, frankly, it's another tool that the administration needs to curtail Russia even further on the finance front. I think it's going to pass, but I also would, if it's me and I'm in a strategic place to move communications teams, I wouldn't assume it's going to pass. I would go ahead and continue to engage in persuasion and celebrate only once it's done.
And also in terms of, if we're looking at our own region right now, if we're looking at Poland, if we're looking at the U.S. presence, I mean, there's always a concern that things will change at the moment. Give us a bit of your strategic insight, the presence of U.S. forces here, and what you've been reading, how you interpret it. Is there, let's say, calm ahead? Will we remain as an important part for U.S. troops on the ground?
If you're talking about Poland, I believe so. Obviously, we've seen some curtailments and drawdown in Germany. As much as that may feel political, and perhaps sometimes it is worth remembering that in the 70s and 80s, the East-West split in Germany was the front line, was the frontier. Today, Poland is the front line, and a friendly front line indeed. The United States and Poland have a strong relationship through presidents of both administrations in the U.S., through leadership in all the major parties in the past. In Poland for the last 30 years or so, every president has come to Poland over time, and I see that the American presence within Poland and continuing collaboration as being a continued hallmark of the relationship between the two countries.
All right. I want to go back a little bit more to this bill as well, because at the same time, I'm just wondering, I mean, you've got insights into Washington and politics there in the United States. how much is Ukraine viewed, I think, by both sides of the aisle, by Democrats and Republicans? I mean, time ago, it was something both very much agreed on. Has that changed at all? Do you see the support on the one side, or is this still something that both sides can agree on, or will it be used as some kind of leverage against each other as we approach midterms?
I don't see this as being the political football, the sort of tug of war that it once was. Certainly in the era of Biden's presidency, Ukraine was a Dem issue and not a Republican issue. That seems to have changed, with notable voices reversing their positions recently on Ukraine, on Russia. The administration may not be jumping in feet first to engage militarily around Ukraine, but it is quite clear to me that on other fronts, on the economic front, on intelligence provisions, et cetera, the administration is clearly assisting Ukraine in its fight with Russia. I think this will enable the U.S. to even further, and the world generally, to even further curtail the financial instruments and the financial possibilities of Russia with some teeth, probably long overdue. But I do not see this as becoming the political football that it once was. There may be somebody, if it's a tight vote, acting in a fairly extortionary way, looking for this or that. But I still think at the end of the day that this is going to pass. But as I said, I would be, if I'm interested in its passage, I would be moving my communications teams and gently communicating that to those who have the power to vote in this case.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, we're seeing some images there of the terrible ballistic missile strikes that have been pounding Ukraine these last days. I mean, they haven't been able to shoot any of them down. Does that add any urgency? I mean, if politicians looking at this stateside, does this add more, let's say, urgency to this whole thing, that more will be done faster, or does this fall on deaf ears?
I mean, it's completely in line with the narrative. I mean, if I'm in D.C., which I'm not at this point, but if I were in D.C. and I was carrying messages to members of Congress, I would absolutely be advocating for the fact that Russia continuously targets civilians, that they're using some of the most powerful weapons ever created with the absence of weapons of mass destruction to inflict damage and harm. This violates most traditional norms that are accepted right now, and I think it does draw sympathy. It's also worth noting that Ukraine needs to get moving and quickly put in place a new ambassador to Washington, D.C., who is linguistically aligned, culturally aligned, and able to move some of these messages, along with coordinating allies and partners that want to help support their narratives and messages on Capitol Hill today.
All right, so giving us the latest there from Washington to Asia, Joshua Burgin, founder of the Alliance for Global Security. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate seeing you today, Sascha.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but do stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.